Welcome back, my friend. This is Mr. Alan in the world of toys. And today I have a so special guest, my friends. Maybe the best influencer of Master of the Universe around the world, but also now a writer as me. Therefore, I give you the one and the only, my friends. Clap your hands for the one and the only Pixel Dan. Welcome, Dan. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. Doing great. Glad to be here.
You are welcome. And we are right here, guys, to talk about a huge book. Remember, this book is about 752 pages. Therefore, is a book larger like the Snake Mountain almost because it's so big. But the first question is, what is the process behind? What was the first step to create this project? What is you start about your idea? What is the idea behind the book in the beginning?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the idea behind the book was that I wanted to do a complete guidebook to the Masters of the Universe toy collection because that's something that hadn't been done yet. And I always love those reference books. You know, I've got so many great ones on my bookshelf for various toy lines. And Masters of the Universe is like my personal all-time favorite toy line. And I wanted to see something like that. And I figured, you know, if anybody's going to do it, why not me, right? Why not me? So I started kind of planning that together and trying to figure out, well, should this just be like the original toy line or should I just go for it all? Should I do like all the way up to like the current stuff, Masters of the Universe classics? And so that's kind of where the whole thing started. And it was kind of like compiling a list of all the different action figures and vehicles and play sets for each of the different toy lines and getting like a map basically put together with how many items there were and how we were going to lay out the book. And once I kind of got a picture of like, okay, well, this is, if I go for everything, this is going to be a really big book, but that's what I want. I want this to be as complete as possible. So I'm going to go for it. That's what we're going to try for. And that's kind of where it all started. Yeah.
And then second question is about the size of the book, because, for example, when I have a novel, I go to a publisher. Sometimes a publisher says to me, "It's a good novel, but it's too huge. Cut something, cut this chapter, cut the other one." What happened with you? Because when the publisher understand that this book become growing up very big, so big, what is the reaction about the publisher about the size of the book?
Yeah, no, that's another great question. So the good thing about this is that Dark Horse Books, which is the company that's publishing this book, they've got the license for Masters of the Universe, and they've already done several books on the topic. So I think they kind of knew like what to expect from something like this. They knew that this was going to be a large encyclopedia style book. And you know, it was one of those things where we knew that there was going to be a possibility that we might have to break this down into volumes, but I wanted to avoid that as much as possible because I thought it would be best if it was all one book. So we kind of just laid it all out there. We said, this is what we're doing. We want to cover all these figures, all these vehicles, all these play sets from 1982 all the way up till now, with basically one page dedicated to every single item. So that means it's going to be a pretty big book. And of course, something like that has to go through not only Dark Horse's approval, but Mattel and Universal, because they've all got, you know, licensing stuff. But we got really lucky, I think, because Mattel was right on board with it right away. They thought they wanted to see it too. I'm lucky that I've had a working relationship with Mattel all these years, because once they found out that, you know, I was going to be the one heading this, they were like, they basically told Dark Horse, like, yes, green light, we're good. This is good. So it all worked out perfect. We got very lucky that they didn't ever tell us no. They never told us they had to break it down. They were just like, you're good to go. Let's do it.
Cool. So cool. And yeah. the coverage of the book is of many type of masters. The Master of the Universe 1982, the Princess of Power, Iman 1989, the 2000X Crisis. Okay, but the question is that we many different type of masters. Therefore, the book is scheduled in different section, or there are only chapter. And what is the structure of the book?
Yeah, so we've got it structured by toy line. So it'll start with the 1982 toy line, and then, like you said, it'll go Princess of Power, the 89 He-Man line, or as people call it, New Adventures of He-Man, then the 2000X line, and Masters of the Universe Classic. So they're in that order. And then even after that, we've got like the Super 7 kind of like neo vintage figures that they did, like the modern vintage style figures. We've got a section in there for those as well. So then once you're within those sections, everything is alphabetical. So once you're in the 1982 section, it's alphabetical A to Z, all the releases. So that's the way we felt that would be the easiest way to kind of make things findable within the book. Like, you know, you get to the right toy line and then it's all alphabetical. So it's easy to flip through and find the figure that you're looking for.
Okay, we know that in the Master of the Universe history toy line, there are so many characters. What is the way to don't forget some character during the making of the book? Because many character is not difficult to forget something, because I believe many thousand character. What is the way to escape the problem to forget someone in the book?
To forget somebody? Well, you know, I think one thing that this book is going to do is it's going to either introduce people to characters and figures that they didn't even know about, or it's going to remind them of them. And I hope that this book kind of like shows people some of the cool stuff that they didn't know about and introduces them to some of those not so main characters or not so main toys. I know that for me personally, like, there was even some stuff like, you know, I've been collecting this stuff for so long, but like when you're assembling this book and putting things together, there's always those weird things that you forget about or that you've never really seen before. I think that was some of the most fun, was kind of like re-experiencing a lot of these toys, like the 2000X toy line specifically. You know, I was collecting that like while it was on store shelves, but there's so many things towards the end of that line that I completely forgot about. Like the Battle Station playset, which was like that addition to Castle Grayskull. And it's stuff like that that I think, like, the way I was like, wow, I forgot about this. Like, I can just picture like people flipping through that book and just like discovering all of these more obscure toys. And that's kind of one of the things I'm excited to see happen. I'm excited to see people discover these things for the first time or be reminded of them.
Cool, so cool. I'm also a Filmation guy. I love the Filmation, not only the Masters of the Universe, but also Brave Star, Filmation Ghostbusters, because I like what they did with the story. The development of the story is so cool. And I know, obviously, I'm a big fan of the Club Grayskull. There is a Club Grayskull section in your book, my friend?
Yes, there is a yes, absolutely. All the Club Grayskull stuff is fully represented in there. So basically we've got everything in there all the way up to Masters of the Universe Origins. That's the cutoff. So the current toy line isn't in there because we actually finished the book before that toy line launched. But everything else that came out before it, including all the Mattel and Super 7 classics and Club Grayskull stuff, it's all there. Everything's there. So
maybe in the future you need to make another book for the Origins and the Masterverse.
I know, right? That's all I can think about. They just keep releasing more stuff, and I'm just like, well, I just better start collecting information for a part 2, I guess, because we've got Origins and Masterverse, and not to mention like the mini figures and all that other stuff that's out there now. It's kind of amazing to see how much stuff has come out since I finished the book. It's ridiculous.
And what do you think, speaking of the current Master of the Universe, now they are planning Origins, the Masterverse, another movie for another series for Netflix. What do you think? Now we have 3 different ways for the new Master. What do you think? Maybe it's possible to have some confusion, or you think it's right to have a different way to different fans?
No, I'm right there in kind of that camp where I think it's a little I'm worried about confusion. I really am, because first of all, I want to say that I do think it's cool that like we're at this point where Mattel is like they're going all in on He-Man right now, and and they're doing like 2 new cartoons on Netflix and still maybe a movie, and they've got all these different toys out there. So that's cool. I love that. But like you said, I mean, we've got Origins, we've got Masterverse, they've got that new cartoon that's going to be aimed at kids that's for sure going to get its own toy line. So that's like 3 very different types of He-Man lines out there. And
Yeah.
I am a little worried about market confusion, especially when I don't know, maybe parents familiar with this stuff for looking for it for their kids and they don't know what they're going to get. So, and I feel like they're all hitting different audiences. Like Origins is kind of aimed more at everyone that remembers the vintage line, and then Masterverse is sort of like a Marvel Legends style line. It looks like that's from the new cartoon, and then you'll have a new line for kids. So they're even like 3 different target audiences, it feels like. So I guess the question is, can all of those target audiences sustain these 3 very different toy lines? I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yes, also, I agree with you about the possible confusion. And also, there is things behind this. There is something a little bit sad to me because, like I told you before, I'm a Club Grey School fan, and I talked about that also about with our mutual friend Brian Flynn about that because
Yes.
Super 7 made awesome work with Club Grey School, but also with William Stout, and because of the license problem now. We have no more Club Grayskull, no more William Stout, and this is a little bit sad to me because yes, the origins are cool, but basically looks like an updated version of the vintage one because the character
Right.
was almost the same, and we lost something unique like William Stout never was before, or some character that could be possible in the future was possible in the future for Club Grayskull, but never happened because this everything changed. What do you think about this situation?
No, I am totally with you on that. Especially like you keep talking about the Filmation stuff, but the William Stout collection, like to me, that was like I had been waiting for those my whole life, it felt like. And when I got that Skeletor and the Golden God Skeletor, I was like, man, I wanted those as a kid so bad. And it's so cool to finally get those. But now I'm sitting here going, where's my Evil Lyn? Where's my Beast Man? Where's my Man at Arms? Where's my Tila? I want those figures still. And if there's any way that those can ever happen, like those are absolutely at like the top of my list of figures that I still want for that, because it doesn't feel complete, right? Like I was so happy that we got what we got, but yeah, at the end of the day, those are so good. You just want the rest of them now. You got to have the rest, at least of that core group.
Yes,
so I'm
yes.
with you, man.
My opinion, the William Stout collection was, in my opinion, were a perfect figure, so detailed. And I told to Brian Finn, to me, the William Stout award that was the pinnacle of the 7 inches figure from Super 7 because we are perfect. And also, we are on the same page, Danny, because also me, I was looking for Evelyn, for Beastman, for these guys, and also for the guard,
Oh, yeah.
The black guard.
Could you imagine? Yeah, like army building those? Oh, my God.
The building, so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're totally right about him being the pinnacle. Like I remember even saying that when I was, doing the videos on them, because it was like, man, like Super 7 had really figured it out at that point, right? Because those figures were like, they were so well made and like they had gotten all the kinks worked out. Plus, like, we got just these amazing designs in action figure form for the first time. Like it really felt like they had finally hit their stride. And it's so sad that that's like the last ones they got to put out.
So sad. I agree with you. And back to the book, there is also a section for the William Stout figure in your book.
Oh, of course, they're in there. They are in there, all of them.
And speaking of the play set in general, in Master of the Universe history, what is for you the best ever play set ever made in the history of this storyline?
Oh boy. All right. So if you're going to ask me the best, I can't not say the original Castle Grayskull, because to me that's it. That is like the playset. It's so iconic. It's just my go-to for that. But can I give some honorable mentions? Because there's some really good playsets and there's some very overlooked playsets. One of my favorites that a lot of people forget about or don't know about is the Nordor playset from the 89 He-Man toy line. And that's the one that's like a planet. It's like a purple planet that's got a skull face on it and it opens up into a space station. It's a really cool play set. And people forget about that one or they don't know about it all the time, but it is there are some good toys in that toy line that a lot of people don't realize, because that line is so often looked at as being, that doesn't look anything like He-Man, you know? And I get that. Like, it was such a drastic change for the look of the characters. But if you look at the toys as they are, as toys, there's some good toys in that line. And that playset's easily one of the coolest.
Okay, how many in general there are in your book? Because I think that will be more pictures inside this book.
How many pictures? Okay, let me see if I can give you like a rough number here, because what we said there's 740, let's see. So, and then on every page you've got full turnarounds for every figure. So that's like front, back, left, right. You've got a 3/4 shot of the figure with all of the accessories, which is like the main photo, and then you've got all the accessories pictures. So you're looking at about, man, somewhere around 8 photos per page, at least. There's going to be more in some places where there's the play sets and stuff, because we took a lot more photos. So what that comes out to over 6,000 photos, probably even more than that. So I know that we took a lot of pictures. It took about 3 years worth of photography for this book. So it was a lot.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Before who made this picture for you? We have some photographer, or Matteo provide to you the pictures?
I did most of the pictures in the book. So what we did, so I had a couple people that helped me out with some photos here and there, but it was me and my business partner Val Staples, who we worked on this book together. We traveled all around the country, meeting up with Masters fans everywhere who were kind enough to allow us into their homes, who had things that we needed to photograph. And we would just spend a day or an entire weekend. We would set up a studio in their house. I would travel with my equipment and my lights and everything, and we would just sit there for 24 to 48 hours and just take pictures of action figures and play sets. And then I also had some help from some other folks, like my friend Peter from electrifiedporcupine.com. He photographed a lot of the Masters of the Universe Classics figures for me, because he had them all, and it was easy for him to do that while I was traveling to track down all the vintage stuff to photograph. So I had a lot of help. But it was, every photo you see in this book was like taken for the book. So that's one thing I really wanted to make sure, that it was all original photography.
So cool. I saw a video with you about Staples when you make a closer look of an Eternia playset. Was so cool, so fun, because it was to stay in the balance of this big playset. And it's like looks like, because I never had this playset, because when I was a kid, the Eternia playset, also right here in Italy where I live, the price was a big price, and my parents says no, it's too big, the price is too big, forget about it. But what do you think about this playset? Because when you're thinking about Eternia, you imagine the Eternia of the cartoon with the big dome, and the Eternia vintage playset is totally different.
It's totally different.
What do you think about, and why was different? You know why it was different, this playset between the cartoon?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. So it has something to do with the direction of the toy line, right? Because that kind of was supposed to all lead into whatever they were going to do with Powers of Grayskull, which was going to be the the next toy line after Masters of the Universe that sort of got scrapped. So that's part of the reason there, I think. I think they were developing this story with these 3 towers that had risen up in Eternia, and like one of them kind of represents Grayskull, one of them kind of represents Snake Mountain, and then you've got this like massive middle tower there. So yeah, it's very different from anything we saw in the cartoons. They were kind of doing their own storyline with it. I also did not have it as a kid because it was huge. In fact, I don't even remember seeing it when I was a kid. That's one of those things I learned about later on, like as a fan, like getting on the internet and remembering the toys he had as a kid. That's, I think, when I first found out about Eternia. So one of the cool things about this was one of those great moments for the book where we got to set up the full play set and it was complete. And I had seen the play set, I have the 3 towers now, but it's like just the towers. It's not complete. So we were over at Justice Curry's house. He was letting us photograph stuff, and he has a complete Eternia play set, complete with all the monorail tracks, which are so brittle. I don't know if you know that, but they're like so prone to breakage now. But we got to set that whole thing up, and we got to put the monorail tracks on it, and we actually like turned the thing on and had the little thing running around the monorail tracks. And it was awesome because we were all there together, and we all just kind of had this moment, like this geek out moment. We were like, whoa, this is so cool. Like we were watching it run, and we were triggering the different action features on there because you can like you can hang figures off of the little car on the monorail track, and it'll trigger a trap door and dump things. It's amazing. So that was so great. And that's why I was glad that was one of the times where I actually filmed some like behind the scenes footage. If there's one regret I have, it's that I didn't do more of that while I was on the trips, but I was so exhausted. It was hard to think about also filming things while I was doing all that photography, but I am so glad that we took footage of that whole thing, like with Val carrying the Eternia out of the closet and then us getting it set up and running it, because that was such a great day, and I'm glad that I get to look back at that and like kind of share that with everybody too.
So cool, so cool. Also because now for a collector, it's so hard to get this playset complete. Because if you go the price on eBay with a complete playset is huge now for a complete playset area. So rare, huge, and the huge price also. Therefore, however, when I was a kid, when I saw in the, I don't know what the English name for the little book with many toys. I forget the name. However, when I was in Italian, it's called Dépliant. Dépliant is a little book when you can see the toy. However, when it was the first picture, when I watched the first picture, and when I was a kid, it was a little bit confusing because we have one tower for Castle of Grayskull, but why we have a tower for Castle of Grayskull if we have a Castle of Grayskull? Why we have a tower for Snake Mountain? It was weird a little bit.
No, you're totally right. It's super weird. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially like you said. Most of us were. I mean, we were raised on that cartoon, right? We were raised on the Filmation cartoon. That's basically what made me fall in love with He-Man from the get-go, was what I was seeing in the animation. And that was so very different from anything that we were used to. At least Castle Grayskull looked like Castle Grayskull, and Snake Mountain, we could use our imagination. And it looked kind of like Snake Mountain. But yeah, that was so different.
So different. And what do you think about the 1985 line of He-Man? This looks like futuristic version with the space character. To me, it was a little bit shocking because I was a little bit shocked as a kid because I was a collector of the original. And when I saw the Man 1989, I saw a different outfit, different story, a different landscape. What is your opinion about this different line in 1989?
Yeah, so as a kid, I still remember seeing those for the first time. It was at a KB toy store, and I remember walking down the aisle, seeing that blue card back that said He-Man, and picking it up and looking at it, and then showing it to my mom. And I was like, look at this new He-Man figure. And my mom went, that's not He-Man. And she put it back on the shelf. And it never came up again. So I never had any of those figures as a kid. I don't think I was even aware that there was a cartoon series for it until much later on. So I completely skipped it as a kid because I saw it. I didn't think it looked like He-Man. And by that point, I was already well into Ninja Turtles. So, I didn't ever even look back once we put that back on the shelf. So as a collector, that's when I first started getting into that line. And it was one of those things where, back in like 2002 or so, you could pick those up on eBay for cheap because nobody wanted them. Nobody wanted them. And that's how I first discovered that Nordor playset. I bought one off eBay back then for like $30 in the box. Like I opened it brand new out of the box and put it together. And that's when I started buying because I like Optic. He stood out as a cool looking character. He's got a big eyeball for a head, like that. I always thought that the mutants looked kind of neat. So it's one of those things where, like, when you compare it to what came before, yeah, they don't look anything like He-Man. What is this? It's super weird. But when you look at the designs of the toy line, I think that the toys themselves are good toys, but they're living in the shadow of, like, what was established before them. And I know I
Yes, and
cut out a little bit
also
there, but yeah. Sorry.
maybe because we are so far. I'm in Italy. I live in Italy. We live in USA. In which country USA? Which state? You are in
Illinois.
USA.
I'm in Illinois.
From Illinois, from North Italy. Therefore, sometimes maybe the connection, I believe, because. However,
Yeah.
back no problem. Back to I have a consideration that I want to share with you. Now we live in a weird moment of our life in every country, every part of the world. No? It's not an easy moment. It's weird. It looks like to be inside in a Stephen King book or in a Carpenter movie because it's so weird the situation now. But because of that, I think that a book like yours book of collecting toys, of the work that made a guy like Brian Flynn, or make a video like you and me on everyone, is so important because now, in this difficult moment of our life, collecting toys, back to Master of the Universe with your book, watch old cartoon, back to something that remember the better days of our life is a good escape to stay better today. What do you think about my feeling?
No, I think you're spot on with that. And that's how I've always felt about this to begin with. Obviously, now more than ever, I think it's important to have these little escapes and these little moments to remind us of happier times or bring back some fuzzy nostalgic feelings. But I've always kind of gone into this, whether I'm doing the YouTube thing or now putting the books together, like this is stuff that I love and it's fun and it's something I'm excited about and I'm passionate about, but it's all about having fun to me. And that's what I like to try to share with everybody with my videos and hopefully with this book. Just kind of remind everybody about why we loved this so much, whether it was when we were kids or why we love it so much now, because there's so much just ugh in the world, right? And we're dealing with tough things in our lives every day, whether it's, we're working jobs that just are not the most fun things to do, or you're dealing with stresses of just regular life. So when you get to just kind of kick back and experience the joy of posing an action figure around for a little bit, like we need those breaks in our lives. We need those moments of joy. And I think it's very important for anybody that's out there, whether it's you doing your videos and interviews and everything that's on YouTube and all these books. I think it's important to spread that passion around so that we can all just kind of enjoy the things that we do together and celebrate that.
Cool, cool. We are on the same page, my friend.
Yeah.
And back to the making of your book. From the beginning of when the idea was born in you, and to the final editing of the book, how many months the process for this making of?
How many months?
How many months?
So this was about it was a good 3.5 years it took us to get through this entire thing. From the moment that we made the decision that we were doing it and started conceptualizing it and writing down our roadmap all the way to when we finally turned in that final draft, it was about 3.5 years. It was a long time. It really felt like at points that it was never going to end. Like I was just like, what have I gotten myself into? I feel like this is just like, is this actually going to happen? Am I going to get to hold a book at the end of this? Like I definitely had those moments where, you know, it was very stressful and it really wore me out, and kind of had those little breakdowns, you know. And if you're a writer, I'm sure you understand, like you run into these walls sometimes. And you know, the writing portion, it's a lot of work, and you know that you've got deadlines and you know you've got to get things done, and then you'll just sit there and you're just you know, nothing's coming out, and it's hard, and it was definitely beating me down for a while. But you know, like you just kind of push through it, and then you get on your strides and you keep going. And at the end of this, I think we're gonna have a pretty cool book, so I think it'll all have been worth it. I hope so. I hope everybody loves it. That's the ultimate goal. As long as everybody loves it, I'll feel like I've done my job.
I believe they will. Everybody will love, because
I hope so. I
understand the project is very cool, but I understand also what do you mean about when you will hold your book, because, for example, I published 5 novels in Italy in Italian, and I remember when I published the first one in 2013. The first time that I held my book in my hands was so magic, because when you write in something, it looks like an idea, looks like a virtual, no? And only when you get your book in your hands, you understand what you did with this your idea, your idea become real, and this is so cool. Therefore, I believe when you get your book, because now we have a pre-order, and I believe they will be out on April 27th, the day.
Yes, it's supposed to be, I think, towards the end of April is when it's supposed to be coming out.
Okay.
And I just found out that I'm getting my early copy within the next 2 weeks here. So I'm actually going to have that moment that you're talking about very soon. And it's a moment I've been looking forward to. It's probably going to be an emotional moment. I'll tell you something I haven't really told anybody. Like when I wrote the last paragraph for the book, like the final bit of writing, like I had been rocketing through, and like I wrote the last thing I needed to write, and I hit enter, and I just kind of sat there for a minute, and I just felt like this release. And then I just started crying. I couldn't even help it. I was just like, it was like this emotion, just like, oh my God, I did it. You know, it was kind of amazing. So I have no doubt that when I'm holding the actual physical book in my hand, it's going to be a pretty cool moment. I can't wait. I can't wait.
We are on the same page also for the feeling of the end of the book, because when I write my novels, because I publish 5 novels, but I have other 32 novels in my desk ready to go. Oh. Because I write novel after novel. But when I arrive in the last chapter, in the last few words of the book, I feel a little bit sad. I think it was very emotional, because when I know that this character, I never meet this character again, because when you write a story, you write the story. And therefore, I understand so well your feelings in the end of the book. And also, I like this your project, because this is a project with a big passion behind. And the good things for an artist is create something that you love so much. And this is cool. And the reason why I support this project, one thing is because it's a big project, a huge book with over 3 years of working about it. And also because there is a big passion behind it. And this is the first rule for an artist or writer is put your passion with your words and create your book, your story, your song, because I created many songs also before. Therefore, I understand, I like this passion behind this, because you made something with your passion, with your love. You have also an expertise of that, of Masovires, because you know everything.
Well, thank you, man. And I really hope that the passion pours through, because I poured my heart into this, but so did a lot of other people who helped out. I had a lot of help along the way, and a lot of folks. I mentioned to everybody that let me come and take photos. And of course, Val and I worked very hard on this, but then we also had folks, helping with the layout of the book and all that kind of stuff. So there's a massive thank you page, like a credits page right in the beginning of the book, because I want to make sure everybody gets their due. Like, one of my favorite things about this is not only did I get to pour my passion into this, but so many people within the Masters of the community lent a hand as in any way that they could. So this is very much like a fan made book for the fans, and I think that is just the best possible way to get something like this out there.
Cool. And I think also because I talks about that also with John Callis of PowerCon on August. We made an interview together, and we talks about this awesome community with the Master of the Universe, because it looks like a worldwide family with the same passion. I like this, and it's also I now learn out also the same philosophy behind your book, because it's not just only your book or Val Staples' book, but you, Val, and many others, they love this community. For this book of our community, and it's so cool. It's so cool. I love this philosophy.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, you're totally right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like, I think that was what was so like amazing to me through this. And I knew going in that I was going to need as much help as possible, especially because we wanted to have original photography, and I don't own everything, and we needed fans to help us with this. But like, it really kind of hit me while we were like out there and we were making these trips and meeting all these people, because every single time, first of all, they were always so excited to be helping. They were so helpful. Everybody, was just so willing to lend whatever kind of help they could to this project. But it was so cool because they would always like recommend somebody else for us. Oh, well, have you met so-and-so? Because they've got this stuff that you might need. So they would put us in touch with that person. Then we would meet that person. And then they would say, have you met so-and-so? And it was like this amazing train, like just this chain reaction that just kept happening, because everybody just knows somebody throughout this community, and it was like they just kept tagging in the next person, you know what I mean, tagging the next person, and then they would come in and they would help us out, and then they would give us some recommendations, and it was just a cool experience to like just be around this and this passion and see how everybody kind of does things their own way, and their collections. I liked seeing what people focused on with their collecting and the things that they were passionate about, and how their passions were going to help this book project. So like, I just felt really, really just kind of blessed, through the whole thing, that like I was just getting to meet all these very wonderful people who were just big geeks like me, they just they have these same kind of loves and these passions, and I just loved getting to connect with all of them.
Okay, and speaking of the book again, you cover also in this book the 2000X Master of the Universe. What do you think about this version of Master of the Universe? Because they are so different. Also, the cartoon was different, totally different concept. Idea of the Master of the Universe. What is your first reaction? To me, once again,
there we go.
Because I'm still a filmation guy. The 2000X, I'm not a big fan of this one because they are so different of my concept. But I understand that there is another way to love Master of the Universe. What is your opinion, especially when 2002 start this new version of Master of the Universe?
At the time, that was kind of like what brought me back to Masters of the Universe, honestly. So like they released those commemorative figures, the commemorative vintage figures in like what, 2000 or 2001. So I remember finding those on store shelves and being like, oh my God, He-Man. Yes. Like that. And I bought all of those, and collecting those is what made me start searching for He-Man on the internet. And that's when I found out that there was a new series coming out. So I was really anticipating the release of that 2002 series. And like you said, they were like pretty drastically redesigned. But of course, that was also our introduction to the Four Horsemen, who went on to have a pretty long legacy with the brands. And there were definitely some things early on that I wasn't a fan of. Like, I did not like the new Power Sword. I remember being like real turned off by that new Power Sword. I was just like, what are they doing? Why do we need this big, weird, overly gigantic like anime sword or whatever? And and like Skeletor kind of had like the dual swords, which was supposed to pay homage to the vintage two halves of the Power Sword. So there was little things like that I wasn't really a fan of. But for the most part, I really liked the redesigns in that line. Like, I really feel like that's what reintroduced me to this brand and really got that passion going again for me, because that was when I was spending a lot of time on forums like He-Man.org's forums and chatting with people, and we were all looking for the new figures in the stores, and we were all talking about the new episodes of the cartoon, and I feel like that was kind of my first taste of like really interacting with a fandom like that. So even if I didn't love all the redesigns in the beginning, that ended up being a pretty special line for me overall, just because I feel like that was almost like the catalyst for everything that came after it, because even though that line got canceled early and the show ended without a lot of fanfare, I think the hunger from the fans for more He-Man is what gave us the Masters of the Universe Classics line. And, so I don't think we would have had that without the 2000X line to like get us all excited again.
Cool. And this is a funny question. How many pages in your book you dedicated to Mosquito?
Like at least 600 or so. No. So many Mosquito pages.
And also, why Mosquito is your favorite? What you like his gimmick? What is it?
It's got to be the gimmick. It's got to be the gimmick. So he's just one of those figures that as a kid, that gimmick just stood out to me so much. I just thought that liquid flowing through the chest was so cool. Like, I would carry that figure around with me. I would like jam him in my pockets and like run around the yard, and I'd pull him out and I'd do the blood pumping thing, and like just something about that running liquid feature. I don't know. It just really mesmerized me as a kid, and that always stuck with me. He's one of the few figures from my childhood that I hung on to. He was one I couldn't get rid of, so I still have him today. He really made an impact on me. So.
Cool. So everyone knows the Mosquito is your favorite, but what is the character that you don't like? You never liked it of Master of the Universe?
I probably get some flack for this, but I was never really big on Zodak. And I know he's one of the original 8, but like Zodak never did it for me. As a kid, he never got played with. I don't know. Zodak. I like Zodak better now. But like, it's more like I have an appreciation for him, especially as one of the original 8 figures. But like, yeah, I never cared about Zodak as a kid. Never did.
To me, it's interesting Zodak because it's unique. The thing that is a neutral character. In general, we have bad guys, good guys, but not neutral guys. In the other line, for example, if you imagine Turtles, if you imagine Ghostbusters, we have bad guys and good boys. And these neutral characters, I think, speaking of the concept, the idea to me is interesting because it's unique. It's unique. This concept to put neutral guys in a story in a story of the Master of the Universe cartoon, but also in the toy line. And maybe it was difficult to understand the kids. And maybe I believe the reason why you don't like it so much because when you was a kid, maybe you're thinking, why this guy is not good, is not bad. What is this guy?
That's probably what it was. Like, I don't know where to put him. Do I put him with my bad guys or my good guys? He doesn't really look like a good guy, but he doesn't look like a bad guy either. He just looks like some dude, some very hairy guy with a spaceman helmet on. Yeah, I don't know. You're probably right. But no, I agree. like I said, I have an appreciation for him now. But yeah, if I just look back, like as a kid, I just never cared about Sodak. Never did.
What is the first photo that you made, the first picture that you made for your book, the first pictures? You remember?
Yeah, I do remember. And it's going to be funny, but I did it specifically. So the very first trip we made for photography was to the house of my buddy Brent Scarano, and he has all of the 2000 X figures. That's where we decided to start because he just happened to be first on our trek. So we got out all the figures and we started organizing them and sorting them and getting ready for the photo shoot. And I just said, okay, I know which figure I'm going to shoot first. And I put Disco Skeletor up there and I photographed Disco Skeletor first. So if you're not familiar, that's that really weird Skeletor variant that came out where he's got like an orange face and a shiny blue vac metal chest, and it doesn't make any sense. But he's become a bit of a weird like cult favorite. And I just said, I'm going to do something. I just want to be able to say that Disco Skeletor was the first photo that I shot. So that's what I did.
So cool. Back to the William Stout situation, because William Stout is an artist also in other movie, was working many movie in the cinema, in the business, Hollywood business, but he's an artist. And I think that we remember the last scene of the ending titles of the movie. We remember Skeletor that appears, but the sequel never happened. What do you think about that? Do you think that maybe in the future will be possible a movie as diciamo, a perfect sequel for the movie is possible? Do you think, or the next movie will not relate it, maybe not relate in the future because it's too much time ago?
Yeah, I think if they do a new movie, they're going to do something new and different. I think they'll start fresh with He-Man. It would be cool to see them do a sequel. I remember that was like a post-credit sequence before post-credit sequences were like cool, right? And I remember seeing that. I didn't see that until like I was watching it on VHS as a kid, and it blew my mind. Like when Skeletor popped out and was like, "I'll be back," it like got me excited. But of course, kid me at the time wouldn't have realized that there was no way that movie was going to happen. I was excited by that. But I think you're right. I think too much time has passed. A lot of people don't look at that movie as fondly as maybe you and I do. It gets a lot of, I don't know, at least here in the US, it gets made fun of a lot. Like a lot of people don't really like it very much. So it feels like Mattel, if they do a new movie, they're probably going to do something brand new to introduce He-Man, like from the beginning.
Okay, there is some question for the fan. If you want asking some question for the fan.
Sure.
The first one taught me, Pixel Dan, what was the hardest moto item to track down?
We had a really hard time tracking down the Scuba Tack from the vintage Masters of the Universe line. Those were there were three different ones because there was like the Cliff Climber, the Tower Tools, and the Scuba Tack, and they came out towards the end of the line, so they're already pretty obscure here in the US. But also the Scuba Tack is made of that same brittle plastic that the Eternia tracks were made of, so it was really hard to find one that wasn't broken. And we just had a real hard time finding somebody that had a good Scuba Tack for us to use. And we finally tracked one down. It was literally one of the last things we photographed while we were scrambling to find our last few things to get before we could turn the book in. We finally tracked down a Scuba Tack. Somebody was nice enough to let me borrow one. They mailed it to me very carefully so that I could put it in my studio and photograph it and then carefully mail it back.
Okay, the next message, because there are many message questions, but there is a message that's funny to read because about me and you together. And this guy says, this interview is like when Batman meets Superman. I love this interview.
Which one are you? Are you Batman? Am I Superman?
Maybe Batman because I'm a little bit dark. But yeah, my top hat looks like a penguin top hat.
Yeah, there you go.
Because this is my gimmick for this channel.
I'm the Superman where they didn't edit the beard off from the Justice League movie.
And there is another question. What do you think of Wonder is your don't like Zoda?
Well, I mean, I think so. If you're talking about like Wondar, like the original, like Savage He-Man or Wonder Bread He-Man, or are you talking about Wondar like from classics? Because I didn't know anything about that Wonder Bread He-Man or Savage He-Man when I was a kid in the vintage line. That wasn't something I found out about until way later when it became like that myth, like this mythical figure of what is this. So, I have mixed feelings on Mattel releasing Wondar and classics because, like, first of all, like they named him Wondar, and that original figure had nothing to do with Wonder Bread. So I don't know if I really like that they're kind of like they stamped him as Wondar, almost like giving approval to the rumors that he had something to do with Wonder Bread when he doesn't. So I have mixed feelings on Wondar.
And back to the book, there is also a section for the mini comics inside your book.
Yes, so every figure does list the different mini comics that would have come packaged with the figure. So that is all laid out in there. So that way people can make sure that they piece together which mini comics can go with which figures. Sometimes the figure, like the mini comics, would come with some different figures, and then sometimes figures would get re-released with different mini comics. So that was actually tricky to like try to track down all the different instances of the different mini comics and matching them up with all the figures. But yes, that is the just listing them. It's all in there. There's like the separate Dark Horse book that actually has all the mini comics in it, so you can read them. So.
I'm a big fan. Sorry.
No, go for it. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the mini comics. But speaking of mini comics, I have a sad story about that because I had in the past, maybe almost every mini comics that I had, a big collection of mini comics, Master of the Universe. And when I changed my house with my parents, when we have many boxes, we're doing the translocation, and my mom says, "What is that? You want to have these things? No, put away the mini comics." Because in that time, I was before that I became a collector, and now when I think of that, I become crazy and sad because now they are so ready with the mini comics, and I put away every mini comics that I had. It's unbelievable, so sad story.
No, I totally feel that. I bet a lot of them wound up in the trash with the packaging when I was a kid too, to be perfectly honest. I bet they did. Because that's totally the type of thing my mom would look at and think it's just like, a little insert that came with the figure, and she'd just toss it in the bin. It'd be out.
Speaking of speculation, because now we know it is impossible. Speaking of, if you can pick one figure for the Club Grayskull that never made before, which character you pick?
Oh, this is hard. I don't know. What do you have something specifically in mind? Because it gets a little harder for me to narrow down the Filmation stuff, because we got a lot of the ones that I really wanted. Icer was always the one I wanted the most, and I was really glad because they didn't do them in Club Grayskull, but at least we got them in classics right before they started doing Club Grayskull. I guess maybe I liked that we started getting like Filmation versions of some of the main characters towards the end there. Like we got like the Tongue Lasher in like the Filmation style. So maybe if we went down that road and started getting some more of like the Filmation style main characters, who do we need still? We needed
Rattler, for example.
Rattler was one of them. Yeah, I talked about that when I did the Tongue Lasher video. Rattler would be awesome because he was very different looking in the cartoon. I liked that we started getting stuff like that, like the Modulok was awesome. Getting like the Filmation Modulok and stuff like that. What do you want? What were you hoping for?
My Multibot Leech.
Multibot, yeah. Oh, Leech. That's a great one.
And also some characters that were made for classics but different. For example, Scorpia. Scorpia was in the classics. It's not
sure, but not like a true Filmation look. Yeah, I totally know what you're saying. I was really realizing I was really noticing that when I was just setting my figures back up for display, because I was grouping all the Filmation type characters together, and the characters that are from Filmation that they made for classics don't mesh real well with the Filmation stuff once they started like really going in on those Filmation looks. So you're totally right. Some of those characters, like, they could totally have redone. What about like Hunga the Harpy? I know that's one that gets brought up a lot from like She-Ra. That would be a cool one. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Any of those characters that we didn't get. There's
Also,
so many they could do. So many they could
also
still do.
an army building for our trooper Filmation also.
Oh, a Horde yeah, Filmation Horde Trooper. That would be fantastic.
Because we have Dynamog, because basically the classics Dynamog of Super 7 is a cartoon accurate Club Grayskull of Dynamog,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because it's
totally. Because
it's
I know he doesn't look much different, right? Like, I know they put him in the classics line, but I love that they gave him like the classics Horde logo, but also a Filmation logo that you could just put on him instead, because that was like their excuse. That was like, yeah, see, he's a classics figure.
Also, Whiplash Filmation Club Grayskull, another guy that we need, in my opinion, Whiplash version cartoon.
Oh, Whiplash, that would be another good one. Man, see, all you're doing is you're just rubbing salt in the wound, dude. That we're not going to be getting any more of these. These are more William Stout stuff, please. That's what I want.
William Stout also. William Stout, Man at Arms, Tila, Evelyn,
and Beastman. Oh, I want Evelyn and Beastman so bad. You have no idea. Those are the tops for me. Also, the Troopers, like you said, the Troopers would be so cool. Throw in a Lubick. Gotta get, if we can get Lubick in there, that'd be pretty sweet.
Imagine William Stout play set of Castle of Grayskull from the movie.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine? It would be so cool.
So cool. Speaking of weird stuff, now Mattel stopped the WWE Mattel retro figure, and I'm a WWF Hasbro big fan. I made also with my friends some custom figure with the Brazilian legend like Dino Bravo, like Jean-Pierre Fils. I made also some stop motion in my channel for that. Therefore, I'm a big fan of WWF Hasbro. And when Mattel stopped the Mattel Retro and put the Master of the WWE Universe, I wasn't not very happy, because I prefer the other way. And also because, in general, maybe because it's just my opinion, obviously, I like the franchise in different way. Tartos is Tartos, Master of the Universe is Master of the Universe, wrestling is wrestling, and put together this weird stuff. Ultimate Warrior looks like He-Man, Ram Man, Goldberg.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not a big. I mean, I know that many people like that, but to me, I'm not a collector of that, because I prefer go in separate way. I like Hasbro figures. What do you think about the material WWE Mattel?
Well, first, let me say you're not alone. A lot of people were mad that they stopped the retros, the retro Hasbro styles, and started doing the Masters ones instead. I remember seeing so many people complaining about that when they first made that announcement. And I was buying all of the retros too. I love the retro ones. I thought those were so cool, because I hadn't really been collecting wrestling figures. But when they started bringing out the retros, I was like, oh my God, yes, I love the old Hasbro WWF figures. So I started buying all those. I have been enjoying the Masters of the WWE stuff. I think that they're a lot of fun, and like they're doing some like fun stuff with it. Like, you can tell that the designers are fans, and they're doing really goofy things and like trying to mesh the two worlds together, and it's making for some fun toys. But I totally understand your feeling on it. And my whole thing was, I can't imagine how confusing that line must be to like mainstream wrestling fans who don't know anything about He-Man. Like, how confusing must that toy line be for them? You know, it's so niche. It's so niche. Like, you've got to be both a He-Man fan and a WWE fan for the most part to like fully appreciate that line. So it is a very niche thing. I am shocked that there are 6 waves in on it already. I'm surprised we got so many.
Yes. because many people this line. Also because, like you tell before, is weird but so creative. I'm agree with that. The action feature, the stuff is creative. This Master of the Universe, because it's totally a little bit crazy. Therefore, it's
It's
also
crazy.
creative,
Yeah.
because craziness and creativity sometimes are in the same way, because every artist is not a normal people. Because if I am a normal people, I not doing music, I don't do it, because you need to have something different, also to collecting toys. Because you could also, when you are a YouTuber, you are an artist, because you become a director of your video, you create your style. Therefore, I consider you are an artist, also because now you're officially a writer with this book. But
I know,
also
isn't that
because
weird? I'm like a published author now. That's still weird to me. It's awesome though, you know, it's exciting.
I have a little surprise for you, because,
Okay.
like I told you before, for I made many WWF Hasbro stop motion on this channel, but I make also stop motion with my Master of the Universe, a short
Oh,
video. I want to show with you with this video,
sure.
and now I to enjoy. Give me your reaction later if you like. It is just for you, for our community.
Cool.
I'm Iman, the powerful man in the universe, and I'm ready to defend the castle of Grayskull from the evil forces of Skeletor.
Oh no, Jitsu. I
And this is
love it.
just the first chapter of this project that I made. And guys, don't forget, my friends, to subscribe Pixel Den channel, and also this channel, because we are a community to share together our passion, and therefore support Pixel Den book and Pixel Den channel. It's just a promo for both. Do you like it?
I love it. That was fantastic, dude. It was so fun. How long does it take you to do something like that?
About 1 hour and a half. No, not too much.
Yeah, not
I
too
made
much.
not too much. I made more time to create my Hasbro stop motion, because
Yeah.
in this channel I create a federation with the legend of WWF, including figures that never made before, like Big John Studd, King Kong Bundy, Hasbro cast. So I write the story. I like a federation, and there is the champion for every time. Every week I make a weekly show, and for that, for example, I made 3 hours to photo shoot everything,
Oh wow.
because but I like it, because it's like, because I'm an old school fan also for wrestling, and to me the golden era is the best.
Yeah.
When we
Yeah.
was a child, because I believe that we are almost with the same age, me and you, and when the Hulk Hogan era was the best in my opinion.
Totally. Totally, man. Well, that was awesome, man. I loved it. I thought that was so fun.
Thank you. And I think it's not strange that we have in the same years, in the 80s, in wrestling, cool character like Hulk Hogan under the Giants, and Master of the Universe on the other side, and Turtles, and these things in the same years. It's not casual, in my opinion, because was different. The concept of the toy, the concept of everything, the creativity was different. Also, the movie, if you remember, the horror movie of the 80s are totally different than today movie. If
Yes.
we remember It for Stephen King, for example, it was the big deal of the nostalgia, because we are nostalgic because something was better. Speaking of art, speaking of toys, because toys is an art. Creative toys, a toy is an art,
Absolutely.
because behind the creation of a Master of the Universe, we know that before, and now start my second question, because we know that Mattel before was in project to create a Conan the Barbarian figure, but because of the violence, they create the Master of the Universe. Okay, but this creation, this creativity was unique. Today we have the same things, but it's not to say did the old day was better. It's a reality, like to say that Kubrick is better than today movie with Dwayne Johnson, because the action movie just to sell the tickets and nothing, without real storyline,
Well,
too much attack.
that's like what you're. I'm sorry to cut you off, but like what you're
No, no, no.
saying, totally like with like toys, like it feels like all the modern toys today have to be based on like current movies and current big budget stuff, or that's just the things from our childhood over and over again, right? Like back in the 80s, they were just like trying to create the next big thing all the time, right? So they were throwing out all these crazy ideas to see what would stick. And that's why the toy aisles were filled with just such these off the wall, wacky, but so amazing and so fun different types of toy lines. And now, like the toy store is basically gone. So, here in the US, we've got Target and Walmart, and that's like it. So there's like very few aisles dedicated to toys, and the only thing those stores are going to give space to is, okay, well, you got your big budget Marvel movies, you've got your Barbies, you've got your Hot Wheels, because we know that those are going to sell. What other popular licenses does you have? It's all about popular licenses these days. And so the creativity, like, I don't want to say that the toy makers today aren't creative, because I think they're still coming up with some cool stuff, but they're working within like these confines that I don't think they necessarily were back in the 80s. That things didn't always have to be a big license thing. Like, they were creating that stuff back then. Like, everything they created in the 80s is a license now. So it's like, I totally see what you're saying. Like, there's definitely a lack of exciting new things to discover, because it's like we're just cycling the same stuff. And don't get me wrong, like, here we all are, we're still fans of Masters of the Universe, we're still buying all the new Masters of the Universe toys, but like, you don't walk in and see like new things like that anymore, right? Like, you just don't. It's not new, it's not fresh.
Yes, yes, and the reason why
Or
also
maybe I'm wrong.
because no, I'm okay with you. It's interesting point of view. I like it. I have another question. It's a little bit personal, by my curiosity, because you are a collector, a toy enthusiast, and you have also two child. What is you try to put your child in this world also, in the Master of the Universe, in toy collecting, because the today kids are different, with different choice, different feelings, maybe.
Yeah. So I never wanted to force any of my loves on my children. Like, I always made sure right off the bat, like, okay, like, of course I'm gonna like show him He-Man, and I'm gonna show him the He-Man cartoon series. But if he doesn't like it, I mean, like, I want him to discover his own things and discover the things that he will become passionate about, and then maybe one day be nostalgic for. And, like, sometimes that's hard, because sometimes I want to be like, but what about these cool He-Man toys? But he has always kind of steered off into his own direction with things. Like, he's all my oldest, Spencer, uh loved dinosaurs for the longest time, and I thought that was so cool. So like, he just wanted everything dinosaur. That's all he cared about. All his toys were dinosaur toys. But now he's 7 years old, and now he's really starting to do that thing where he's latching on to different cartoons and different toy lines. But he is totally going the route of Bakugan and Beyblade and Pokemon. Like those are the things he loves, and that's what he wants. And Ben 10, he loves Ben 10, and Ben 10's cool. So, like it's been fun, like watching him get excited about those things. And like when we go to the toy store together, that's the section of the toy aisle he runs to and looks at. And I want to support that. I want to make sure that like I'm letting him enjoy the things that he loves. So with that said, I will say he has been enjoying some of the new Origins figures, and he really likes Trapjaw to the point that he asked for his own Trapjaw for Christmas. So I got to buy him a Trapjaw for Christmas this year, and that felt so good. That was so awesome. So he's got a Trapjaw figure. Yeah.
This is also a proof that the idea to put a motor region to get new fans worked very well.
I think so. Like, I think it's working. I think the true test is going to be that new cartoon, because that new cartoon seems like it's being aimed directly at kids, especially with the style, that animation style. And again, like I showed that picture of that new He-Man on that new Battle Cat that I think is very weird looking, but I showed it to Spencer, and he said, "Oh, Battle Cat's armor looks so cool." So like I was like, well, I guess you're the target audience for this. Like, so you never know. Like it might make new fans, and I think that's a good thing at the end of the day if they make new fans. So
yes, it's good also to build a community to continue the community.
Absolutely.
Like
otherwise this is just gonna die with us, right? Like if we don't have new blood to continue this thing, like
however, we're still young. We're still young.
We're still young. You're right. You're right. Ignore this gray, right? We're still young.
Also, because young is something in your mind, especially.
You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Yep. Young here. So that's all that matters.
Also, because the art is still a child forever, because still I have the same feelings for the something new. And if you want to be an artist, you need to still child inside, to have this the important feelings, emotion. If you refuse your child, is a bad way to live also, because you forget the magic of your life.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. I am with you 100%.
Speaking of the book, you choose the imaging of Castle of Grayskull in the book, in the cover of the book.
Yeah, that was something we worked on together. So the cover of the book and everything had to kind of fit in with all the other Dark Horse Masters of the Universe books, because it's technically part of that series. So we chose like those photos that are like the front is like the Castle Grayskull one. Those are like old Mattel promo photos, and we thought that was a really cool, like nice and iconic look, because it's a good spread and it shows Castle Grayskull and a good smattering of the figures and everything. So we looked at a couple things, and then that's what we decided on. I just thought that looked the coolest. Great representation of the brand, right there on the cover.
Perfect. When you need to go, give me some signs. Okay, when you have.
I think I'm good for a little while more. If
okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. There is another question for another fan, Damien Ristori. Any of these 80s classics you'd support today for revamp? Bravestars, Centurions, Galaxy Rangers, Masked Dino Raiders?
Oh man, of course. So Dino Riders would be so fun, and I am shocked that we haven't seen something new with Dino Riders with the resurgence in dinosaur popularity. I mean, the Jurassic World movies have made dinosaurs mainstream again, and when you walk down the toy aisles, all those dinosaur toys are flying off the shelves. It feels like this is a time that who's got Dino Riders right now? Is it Mattel? Because I think Mattel still has that. I can't believe they haven't like tried to jump on that bandwagon. They're doing the Jurassic World stuff. Why wouldn't they also do? Maybe they feel like it would be competition against their own Jurassic World line. I don't know. Bravestar would be so great. And I feel like Bravestar is so perfect for like what Super 7 is doing right now with their old stuff. Like even if we just got like a Tex Hex and a Bravestar and That would be so cool, at least just to get them. I would love them. Fit right in with the Masters Classic stuff. Oh, it'd be so great. It'd be so
Speaking
great.
of speaking of Braystar, I talked with that with Brian Flynn, the last video we made together, because to me, imagine that cartoon accurate filmation Braystar ultimate figure, perfect,
Perfect,
for
right?
yeah, perfect for also for a Super 7 philosophy, because Super 7 made something different that not everybody have. And the reason why I support Super 7, because in this channel I made 2 interviews with Brian Flynn, and we talked also about Braystar. It's something they're playing, but not now because there is a license problem. But because I believe the license of Braystar is still with Mattel, I believe, because the old one was Mattel. I believe.
Probably. You're probably right. Yeah. It kind of, it's one of those things where like these companies will sit on these licenses sometimes just for the sake of sitting on them. And that's a bummer because it keeps us from getting toys from the people who are actually willing to make the toys for us. But yeah.
Imagine, for example, because I'm a big fan also of the Food Fighters. I made also stop motion.
Me too. Food Fighters. Yes, I love Food Fighters. That is probably my all-time favorite, like, oddball toy line from the 80s. And I would be all over new ones. That'd be so great.
If you want, I made a stop motion with Food Fighters.
Let's see it. Yeah, let's see it.
To find it, but I put also my girlfriend inside. Because but I need to find it because there is, okay, I find it. I show you my Food Fighters promotion in a few seconds. I need also to find the link to share the link, because maybe there will be some ads before, but at the same time I try to add in a few moments because the connection looks like a dinosaur's connection. But
oh yeah, sorry.
Okay, no, because in Italy. Okay, I put you it's not related to Master of the Universe, but it's related to something that both we love. Maybe we are the only one too that love Food Fighters.
So it's an old Mattel toy line, so
Yeah. There we go, Food Fighters stop motion for you.
I love it. I love it.
Barbie doll is a young girl of Eardley, Kentucky. She loves cooking food and stayed inside her kitchen. But there's something weird in her kitchen. Something that she doesn't know. She spends every day to create new delicious food. But something weird continues. And Barbie doll continues her happy life. But at the same time, in the kitchen, start a fight. Never-ending war between the kitchen commandos and the refrigerator rejects.
Oh my god!
This is the episode now with a little battle, the breakfast.
Na 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 na
The breakfast becomes a new battle between the kitchen commandos and the refrigerator rejects. Later, the refrigerator rejects ambush the kitchen commandos, and the Bulgarian general become an hostage of the bad guys. Now, the Bulgarian general is a prisoner in the headquarters of the refrigerator rejects. But the Kitchen Commandos arrive and save their leader and start another battle. Yes, the Kitchen Commandos win the battle, but not the war.
That's so good. I love it. Oh man, those toys are so great.
I'm a big fan. I was ever a big fan of the Food Fighters, but I purchased the full collection last summer, and I decided to start also a new project of stop motion and create this first episode because they are cool.
They're so cool. They're so cool.
However, back to your book. Well, it's nice because we love something same things.
Totally.
Me and
Yeah. Totally.
it is the good things of YouTube that you can become a friend of someone that maybe you never meet before. Because, for example, I don't like the airplane. It's difficult. I go to USA.
I know, right? We're all the way on the other side of the world from each other, and here we are having a conversation. It's so great. It's so great.
Because the reason why I created this channel in English, because in Italian, if you're collecting toys, they watch you like a weird guy.
Oh, really?
Yes. Also, I talked about that also with John Callis. Also, he was surprised. And the only way to share your passion with someone is creating something in English. Therefore, I imagine I learned English with wrestling, because without wrestling, the wrestling was my English lesson.
Nice. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, it's a little more like accepted these days over here. Like, there's definitely like, I think especially like the Funko Pops, right? Everybody's got the Funko Pops, but like that's what toy collecting is to some people, and that's cool. That's fine. So it's definitely a little bit more mainstream. But I'll tell you, like, it's still kind of funny sometimes when people find out that like I wrote a book, and then they find out that I wrote a book about toys, and they're just kind of like, "What about toys?" Oh yeah, but it's also a #1 bestseller on Amazon right now. What a toy book is, like they're so surprised by it. It's just like, yeah, like we're out there. People care about this kind of stuff, people like having this sort of information. So there's still, it's still not one of those things that's like as mainstream as everything else.
That is cool. And what do you think when you was in work in making up for this book? Was sometimes that you still in trouble because the work is too much? You have some difficult moment during the production, because it's a huge project.
Yeah, well, so I'll tell you the hardest part. So this is like an official book, right? So it's published through Dark Horse. It's licensed by Mattel and Universal also, because Universal's got some stuff mixed in there. Some of the most difficult stuff, this was not only my first book that I've ever written before, but this was my first time dealing with licensing, and that stuff got hard sometimes, like, because there's always the stuff where like you have to submit things for approval, and then things will, like, they'll come back and they might ask why things are certain ways and make suggestions. And then as a creative person, you're like, no, I'm doing it this way. And this is the way that, so you kind of have that back and forth a little bit. And there's always just that worry, that's hanging over you. Like, well, what if something gets rejected? Or what if I don't get to, my full vision doesn't get to, be seen through because of overhanging licensing stuff. So I think it was those moments that were the hardest for me. And then other than that, it was just kind of the usual burnout, like you get through moments where you're just working so hard. And we, for a little while there, were literally every weekend, like we were taking off and flying somewhere else. So like on Friday night, we would fly somewhere, we would spend the weekend, I would be back home Sunday night, Then I would go to my day job Monday through Friday. And then Friday night, I would be flying out somewhere again. And we did that for several weeks in a row over the course of a few months. And that really started to get to me because I was missing my family. I was missing my son. I was really tired and just beat down from doing, all that work on the weekends and then my day job. So it was those moments that I think I was really starting to kind of have like my little mental breakdowns. I was just like, oh my God, is this even going to be worth it in the end? Like I'm missing all this time with my son and my wife and stuff like that. So those were the hardest moments for me.
It's the hard life of an artist. I understand.
Yeah.
Because if you are creative, you are busy. Because, for example, I have two channels. This one, another channel just for wrestling. I'm a writer. And at the same time, maybe if you have some job sometimes on TV, therefore you are so busy for your passion, but sometimes you become also a little bit tired because it's not easy stay in the perfect way for everything when you make many things.
Absolutely. Like burnout's a real thing, right? Like you really do just like you lose your energy and you lose your drive and you're just like, I don't want to look in another He-Man toy. You know what I mean? Like you get to that point and it happens. So sometimes you just got to kind of step away for a little bit and just like, and then you get back to it and you just push your way through. And that's what I did every time. And we made it. We got through it.
Exactly. There is another question from Damian Ristori.
Sure.
Super 7 Ultimate Thundercase leaves my most anticipated figure ever. What are some others you like? Mandora, Plutar, Quick Pick, other top 3.
Yeah, Slythe looks amazing because he's so big, and I'm so excited for that. I want a Bengali really bad. I've always had a soft spot for Bengali. I love his look. I love like that blue and white and those tiger stripes. And I never had the original Bengali action figure. Still to this day, I don't. He's one of those like more expensive, harder to get figures at this point. So I hope we get Bengali soon. But also like any of those mutants or any of those crazy enemy designs. I mean, those are all going to make fantastic figures. I hope we get some Burbills. I like the Burbills, the Robo Burbills. Joe Amaro made the awesome custom Burbills. I don't know if you guys saw those a couple years ago. And those were great. But if Super 7 does like their own offerings and makes like official Burbills, maybe in 2-packs or something, I'd love those. I think those would be great.
Awesome. And now I have a different question because we know that we talked earlier about distribution, Walmart and Target. And in my opinion, when a toy company needs to have also respect for the collector. For example, a toy company that I think they respect very well the collector are Super 7 because they have made a pre-order worldwide. Everyone can take the figure. But there is other company that I don't mention. However, other company that doesn't make it. For example, if I want to purchase some figure that I collect, there is no distribution in Europe, none in Italy, and it needs to purchase on eBay with a big price because the only distribution is Target and Walmart in USA. What do you think about this situation about some toy company that they doesn't respect very well the collector for that?
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying. And it's become just within the past year, it feels like it's become so difficult to collect so many of the toy lines, especially because you've got Walmart and Target as basically the only retailers in the US still. And what keeps happening is like the deals that they have to make. So like, in order to get that precious shelf space at Target might say, okay, we'll carry your toy line, but this toy line has to be exclusive to us, or you have to give us so many exclusives. So all this stuff ends up becoming exclusive to these retailers, which makes it just utterly impossible to find. The online sites for these retailers are a joke. Like it's impossible to buy things off of them online. Not to mention the reseller game has really amped up on toys in the US. I don't know. It's been bad. Like the scalpers and stuff like that has been so bad. I I can't even imagine like international. I know you guys deal with a lot of headaches when trying to collect stuff internationally because some of the stuff doesn't even like make it, it's hard to get. It's harder to get. So you absolutely have my sympathies on that. I think it's tough. I don't really know. I wish I had an answer for this. This is something that people ask me all the time, especially since I've done interviews with a lot of the companies and everything in the past, but it's like, I don't know, like it's hard to get those kind of answers. And a lot of them are just based on like whatever their business model is, whatever their agreements are with the retailers, what they can and can't do based on what the license says. I think there's a lot of factors at play. But also, like, yes, like Super 7 does the open pre-order where they just have a time frame and however many get ordered or how many get manufactured. And the positive side of that is that we don't have to try to hunt those down. I think the downside of that is the prices. I think that's why their prices are a little bit higher. And there's a lot of people that don't like their prices, So it's like, I see both sides of the argument. Like, I really like that I can just order any Super 7 figure and I don't have to worry about it. But like, if we're talking about
But
some of the other figures that are sold at retail only, they're cheaper, but they're harder to get. You got to track them down. So it's hard, man. It's tough.
To me, for international collectors in Italy, for example, the price of Super 7 is not big compared to the price that I pay for some figure that have the distribution right here. Therefore, I prefer a solution like Super 7 because I can purchase my figure with a cheaper price that I spend for my some collection that you can imagine. Because
Right.
I love Cartoon Network, you can imagine what I mean. I don't tell the company. But for that figure, I go to eBay, I purchase with a huge, ridiculous price because the only way to have my collection of these guys, or not now, or maybe 1 year later, if will be some distribution. Therefore, in my opinion, the philosophy of Super 7 is perfect. Also for worldwide customer. Obviously, there is some that we doesn't know. But if Super 7 can do it, why many other companies can do the same thing?
I know. I think that would be cool too. So and I'm with you for the most part. Like, I like the pre-orders that Super 7 does, and I think maybe I'm kind of trained for it because I collected Masters of the Universe Classics all the way through, and they used a similar thing where like they did the subscription on Matty Collector where you bought a year's worth of figures and then they just ship them to you once a month. And so, like, I guess I've been buying my figures like that since 2008 when that line started. So for me, it is what it is. And I prefer not having to track stuff down. But I will say, like, if I'm playing devil's advocate here, the arguments I always see are $50 is too expensive for a toy, for an action figure, and I don't like waiting a year to get it. Because, they don't go into production until after they close the pre-orders, then they produce it, then they release it. So I can see both sides, like, I think there's two camps and I understand both. And the problem is everybody seems to want something that's more in the middle of those two things. And I don't know what the answer is to get us to that point. I don't know. It's hard. Toy collecting is hard.
Speaking of the waiting, in my opinion, is not bad. For example, we wait a long time to get the snake mounted, but it looks like a Christmas. You need to wait in the Christmas, also to a toy that you love. The concept to wait something is not bad to me. Maybe because I'm an artist, sometimes I wait so much to see my book in real hands or to listen my song on iTunes, for example. Because the process is a long process. Therefore, I think it's not bad the way my philosophy, my opinion, waiting for something. Because like you waiting, maybe the magic of the collecting, also waiting your figure. But waiting like everyone, no, I waiting maybe 1 year because I live in Italy. Therefore, I need to purchase my figure before on eBay. But the pre-order concept, I like it also because to me it's not bad waiting 1 year to get the figure because it's a part of the magic of the collecting, in my opinion.
Sure. Well, and that's one of those things, like, it has always taken that long to manufacture a figure. But from the consumer side, we never really saw that before, right? Because like we would walk into a store and we would see a toy and have no idea that that toy went into production a year ago. So I think part of that is there's this kind of disconnect where I think a lot of collectors either just don't quite understand or don't like that it takes that long to produce a figure because they're being told about it and being able to buy it from the very beginning rather than coming in at the end and buying it on the store shelf. So it's like the process of selling it is what's changed, not the actual manufacturing. And I think that's the part that's hard for people to understand. You know what I mean?
Yes, I understand. When and which time we have when you need to go? How many minutes we have again?
I should probably wrap up here pretty soon. If that's okay.
Okay. Okay, maybe the final question. I give you my final question.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, my final question is: in your book, you talks about a Master of the Universe figure that you never had.
Did I talk about a figure that I never had?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So, my favorite part about this, and okay, so I talked about how when I traveled around, I got to meet different collectors who focused on different things. And while my book is primarily focused on all the official US releases from Mattel, there are a lot of international releases for Masters of the Universe toys. Things that were like variations on figures that only came out in different areas. So, so I'm talking about like the Leo Toys figures from India and the Top Toys figures from Argentina, stuff like that. So in my travels, I got to see some of these figures in person for the first time that I had never even held before. Things like Camo Khan, the camouflage Cobra Khan figure from Argentina. And then like the Leo Faker, which is the Faker from India that's got like the black eye bandana and he's got like an orange Havoc staff that he comes with. And it was some of those things that was just so amazingly cool to see in person. And I photographed all of those because I wanted to have like documentation of all these figures. And it ended up inspiring us to include a section in the book that's like an article basically discussing all these different all the different countries that like would get the license to release Masters of the Universe figures and might have put out some different types of figures than what we saw in the mainstream lines. So I got to, see these rare figures in person that I had never seen before. And it basically inspired this whole extra section of the book that, I kind of knew that I wanted to put in there before. So it's just like, it's not like a full spread of these. We didn't go into full details on them, but I wanted to talk about them because I thought they were so cool and I wanted people to know about them and see them. So that was probably my favorite thing that I had never really seen before working on this book.
Cool, so cool. Okay, before to the last moment, with the last salute with my piano, I want to tell you thank you so much, Danny, to be a part in this stream. I hope that maybe it could be possible in the future, maybe another one, maybe when you have the book to give you some preview.
Absolutely,
cool.
Man. Absolutely,
and if you
man.
want have together maybe a conversation after PowerCon could be also cool, because I enjoy this mutual passion together. Is very cool. I like it, and thank you also to like my stop motion. I'm so happy for that.
Therefore, that was awesome, dude. Thanks for sharing it with me, and thanks for having me. This has been such a great conversation. So I really appreciate you helping me promote the book.
Thank you so much. And now, start the music, my friends. It's time to say goodbye to our friend Pixel Dan, but also to all of you guys. But don't forget, collecting toys, it looks like save the child inside you. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, guys. So long, everybody. Thank you.